three major points of difference of how the real estate market works in Dubai as compared to other mature markets in the world, such as Canada, the US, and Europe. Number one, the way the exclusivity for agents to promote certain properties. So in Canada, for example, the general trend is that one landlord would assign a single agent to exclusively promote and market a property. Of course, and protect the best interests of the landlord. Whereas in Dubai, you may have one landlord listing the same exact property with 20 agents. And these 20 agents are most likely to be using the same marketing channels. And that's why when you go online or when you go on portals, you may find the same exact listing listed 20 times under maybe different prices and different description for agents to attract leads and to attract buyers. Now this of course hurts the buyer or the tenant if it's a leasing property, as well as the landlord. So say for example, I'm a landlord and I'm listing my property for 1.1 and aiming to get 1.1, but I may accept also 1 million. If there's one single buyer in the market, but this buyer is working with 5 agents on the same property, and me as a landlord, I get 5 different phone calls from 5 different agents, the way I qualify the interest of the market in my property will be built on wrong fundamentals, because in reality there aren't 5 buyers, there's only 1 buyer. And of course this will impact the way I judge and I accept and reject offers. It will also hurt buyers as well, because when buyers deal with 3 or 4 different agents, they will always get higher expectations from the landlords, whether you're looking at leasing a property or at buying a property. So it's very important for buyers and tenants looking for properties is to qualify the knowledge and the experience of the agent before going into the deep water with that agent. And of course, dealing with one agent on one property, not dealing with several agents for the same property. Number 2, the way the off-plan sales work. So let's take London, for example. Most of the off-plan sales in London works on a small down payment and a bullet payment on handover. So most of the offers in London is basically you pay 5% or 10% down payment and 90% a bullet payment on handover. Whereas in Dubai, I think 2 or 3 years back in Dubai, it was 10% every 3 months, and you may have to pay 10% or 15% on handover. Of course, the market has evolved in Dubai, and today, given the circumstances of the buyer being a buyer's market, the payment plan has completely changed. So today you do get bullet payments of 70 or 80% on handover. It even evolved beyond that because you can also get post-handover payment plans in Dubai from some of the developers. It's also worth mentioning that when you buy a property and you sell before handover, you don't pay the transfer fees in England as compared to Dubai, where you have to still pay the 4% transfer fees. Number 3, the way the legalities work around executing a transaction. So let's take England, for example. In England, you have a solicitor who would take care of all the paperwork. So the buyer would have his own solicitor. Similarly, the seller would assign his own solicitor. So if I'm a buyer, I would transfer the fund to my solicitor's account, who would make sure that the property is fit to be transferred to my name, and would take care of exchanging the property from the seller's name to my name in exchange of transferring my capital or my money into the solicitor's account of the seller. Whereas in Dubai, you don't have the role of a solicitor. Basically, in a general context, the broker does all the legwork of executing a transaction in Dubai using Form F, which is a form that is generated by RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Authority in Dubai. It's basically a sales and purchase agreement between the seller and the buyer. Of course, with bigger companies or more structured companies, real estate companies, you do have a separate dedicated department to do this. It's mostly called Sales Progression Department, and there's an extra fees depending on the company you're using, in addition to the commission that you pay in order for you to make sure that a specialized personnel is taking care of this process. It's also worthy to mention that when you're talking about big transactions, or you're talking about international players or institutional buyers or institutional sellers, they often prefer to assign a lawyer who would deal on their behalf with the brokerage house, just to make sure that all paperwork is in place.